Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It's a great day to be alive, and I have an awesome guest I can't wait to introduce you to. Hi, Summer. Before I rave about you, hello. I wanted to invite people who are here at the Heal Your Hunger Show to jump over after the show to the Heal Your Hunger Tribe. This is a place where you can join, and it's a Facebook group. You can be a part of what we're doing over there. I do Facebook Lives once a week on Tuesdays, actually, called Transformation Tuesdays, and you can ask questions, and we go over a certain topic. Many different topics have to do with healing, emotional eating, and the like. So anything goes, really. It's Transformation Tuesdays. I'd love for you to be a part of that. We have contests and lots of just really cool things, guest speakers. So please join us at the Heal Your Hunger Tribe. You just jump over to Facebook and type that in, Heal Your Hunger Tribe, and then you'll answer a few questions, and then boom, you're in, and we'd love to have you. Now, on to my guest, who is so completely awesome. We're honored to have her here. After resolving her own slew of health concerns naturally by focusing on the gut bioterrain, Summer Bock started teaching others how to do the same. She's certified in integrative nutrition through Columbia University and a 3-time Good Food Award winner for her sauerkraut recipes. She's the founder of the Better Belly Project and CEO at Guts and Glory. So happy to have you here, Summer. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here. You know, I read your book in one sitting and I couldn't put it down.
Aww.
I love your book so much. And I really feel like there's a strong connection between the work that you do and the work I do, because I see how emotional eating plays into gut health.
Totally. You know, emotional eaters, we don't generally binge on salads. so it's, crappy food, sugar, and carbs and bad fats. And we end up wrecking our digestive system that way. And I certainly am, no exception. So I think people are tuning in to know what they can do about their various digestive issues. And you've been on the forefront of this for so long. You really are the leading gut health expert, and you actually coined the term gut rebuilding, which is super cool. And, you're really on the front of this wave of, research and really the revolution of realizing our gut is where so much is happening in our bodies. The intelligence of our bodies is taking place in our gut. So I'm just really excited that you've, really pioneered this information. And it's all started with your own body, right? You were sick?
Yeah, I had to do this work because I wasn't well. I just feel like I didn't really choose it. It kind of chose me. And this was years ago. This was over a decade ago, before you could just figure out what was wrong with you on Google and look it up and be like, here's my symptoms. And it would be like, gut health.
Right.
No, probiotics would not show up online at that time. There were just, that information wasn't available then. And I remember going to my doctor, and my doctor was like, Summer, you know more about this than I do. I really don't know what you're doing here. And she said, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to write a prescription. I don't think you're going to fill it. I also don't think it's going to do anything. So what are you doing here? And I came to her because I had hives. I had rashes. My eyes, the whites of my eyes were swelling up around my irises because I was having such bad allergic reactions. I could eat about 30 foods without having a reaction to them. I was bloated. I had indigestion and just constipated. I was uncomfortable all the time. And I had very low energy.
Wow.
And, it was really hard when my doctor told me she couldn't really help me. So I went home, and I just, I was trained as an herbalist at this time. And so I was taking herbs for all the different things. I was taking herbs for my liver to help with my skin issues. I was taking herbs for digestion. I was taking herbs to help reduce the anxiety and the panic attacks. I was waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks.
Oh my gosh.
And from a sleep, it was horrible. And this, I found out later, was just all connected to an imbalanced microbiome. And when I left her office that day, I made a strong commitment. I was like, first of all, the train has left. I'm left here at the station all by myself. And so I'm going to stop trying to wait for someone to save me. So this is my responsibility. This is up to me to figure it out. I'm going to heal my food allergies, and I'm going to heal my environmental allergies. I'm committed to that. There has to be a way, because I was born into this world. I shouldn't be allergic to it.
Amen.
And, so that was the beginning really for me. I stopped taking herbs for everything. I just tuned more into my body. And I actually met a naturopathic doctor who came through town, and she recommended some probiotics for me. I started taking them. I noticed a difference. And then I asked myself, wait a minute, what's the whole food version of probiotics? Like my ancestors, they weren't taking little white pills made in a laboratory. So how are they getting this? And that's when I discovered fermented foods. Fermented foods are the way that our ancestors got probiotics in on a regular basis. And they're incredible. So I learned how to ferment things, and I started a sauerkraut company, and, it just kind of went from there. But I mean, honestly, I was able to cure myself of my food allergies. I was able to get rid of my environmental allergies. I do not get allergies at all anymore, and I was miserable for years. And I'm not taking anything for that. I figured out why. I figured out what's happening in the gut to cause that. It's actually a gut problem, not an allergy problem. It's an immune issue starting within your digestive system. So, through the work that I did myself, I discovered that there was some very key foundational pieces that people should be doing to make sure that their gut is healthy, So that's what I do. That's what I teach my clients, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, you're so good at it. Talk to me about dysbiosis and what that actually means.
Dysbiosis is when you have an imbalance in your system. So it means that there's not enough good bacteria, there's too many bad bacteria growing there, and those organisms that we call quote unquote bad bacteria. I do that because it's okay to have a few. It's just that you don't want too many. That's when you have dysbiosis. And I liken it to like a human sewer. So let me tell you about the things that can cause dysbiosis, so it's easier to understand. So stress is a big factor in dysbiosis. Just, being in a stressed out state, you actually produce all of these neurotransmitters and hormones, and those bacteria read those. They understand them. Those are like little text messages to them. And those text messages say, hey, this is survival mode, guys. You got to figure something out. This is major. So they start acting differently. They start producing even different metabolites, and they reproduce differently during that time. Also, antibiotics and some other pharmaceuticals, but antibiotics is a big one because it wipes out all the bacteria, good and bad. And then you're left with, just a barren wasteland. Yeah. And then the other thing is, the environmental toxins that come in through our food, that come in through our water, as well as just having food that isn't the right foods, nutrient lacking foods, not getting the right things in, not getting food that was grown in healthy soil, and not getting food that's filled with fiber and all these other things that feed the good bacteria. Right. So these are some of the major sources, and most people can check off all of those boxes. And say, well, I've done that, I've done that, done that, done that. Yep. Which means that we all are exposed to the possibility of having dysbiosis. And I actually think a lot more people have it than we are aware of. Yes. And it's problematic because when you're looking at a healthy microbiome, it's a community of organisms. Very similar to a rainforest where you have all these organisms working together. Sure, some of them eat each other and whatever, but they're all in balance. And if you were to drop like a banana on that forest floor, let's say a banana peel even on that forest floor, it's going to get eaten up by all the organisms there, and it's going to turn back into soil. Whereas in a barren wasteland, like what happens after antibiotics, it's going to be more like a city street. Where what happens when you put a banana peel on a city street, it turns into slime. It turns into sludge. It doesn't turn back into soil. The organism, our body doesn't use it up and, turn it back into something that we can now use again. And I think that's the biggest problem, is that we're dealing with this barren wasteland. And over time, all of the excretions from these bad bacteria, from dysbiosis, they are clogging up the bloodstream. They're clogging up the liver. And they're really clogging up your channels of elimination. So people tend to not have as healthy bowel movements. And then they also end up having skin issues, or it turns into autoimmunity, things like that, because, their body just can't eliminate all of the toxicity coming from the bad bacteria anymore.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, if somebody has to take an antibiotic, they should always take something to balance their bacteria, right?
Well, of course. I mean, when you take antibiotics, I think probiotics, you've got to get those in, but it's not enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, taking probiotics alone, I think that's the biggest message, that if I could just say one thing to everybody, taking your probiotics is not enough. And it's not enough because you have to make sure that you're feeding these organisms every day. So you need to be getting them the right food. And their favorite food is fiber. So, our ancestors used to eat 100 grams of fiber every day. And now we're recommended by the FDA to eat 25 to 30 grams of fiber every day.
So what does that look like, fiber? Because I have a whole lot of images that come to mind. But what kind of fiber are you talking about?
I'm talking about plants. I'm talking
vegetables.
About fruit, vegetables, seeds, nuts. Okay. I am not talking about fiber that you put in a cup and stir up and chug.
Right.
That's not it. I'm talking about natural sources of fiber.
Yep. Okay. And so that fiber that's really what's going to feed the microbiome.
Yes, and you need a diversity. You can't just count on broccoli and spinach to be your source of fiber. You have to have broccoli, spinach. You need to get some chia seeds in there. I need you eating parsley and basil and, all different kinds of lettuce and greens and carrots and sweet potatoes and kiwis. Kiwis actually have a very specific kind of what's called a prebiotic, a fiber on the outside. That little brown skin has a specific kind of fiber that feeds some of the probiotics in your gut. So all these people that they're peeling their kiwi, you're missing out on a real opportunity.
Wow. So you should be really sticking the whole kiwi in the blender and eating it.
Oh yeah. You can just cut out that little knobby end, and that's all you need to do.
So the fiber is still good even if it's blended in a Vitamix, right?
It is. It's still good. Yeah. I mean, first, the only reason that I would ever suggest not doing that is if somebody is pre-diabetic or diabetic, in which case they probably need to eat more of it, because when you blend it all like that, you actually release a lot of the sugars and it can spike people's blood sugar faster. So depending on the fruit, you can balance it out and maybe just eat your fruit separate, or just maybe one kiwi in a smoothie or something like that. That's the only time I recommend not.
Gotcha. Just be aware of the sugar content of things that are blended. Yeah, it makes sense. And I love that we talked about eating a variety of foods, because I think, I know for myself and some other emotional eaters I know, when we're trying to eat clean, it's easy to get hooked on a few things that really work for us. Like, we like it, it's a satisfying meal, and then we get stuck on that and eat the same thing over and over and over because it feels safe, right? Like, I found a meal that feels safe, and it doesn't, I don't want to overeat on it, but I feel satisfied and happy with what I'm eating. So I love the variety you're talking about. I think that's really important.
It's key. I mean, I think it's important. I think you're right about the ruts. And I mean, and some of the foods that are even good fiber, I think, can become sort of addictive for some people. Like nuts is a good example. Like I said, nuts, yes, but that doesn't mean, Summer said nuts, so let's go nuts. Like, no,
it's easy to go nuts.
You got to still eat an amount that makes sense for you calorically each day.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, nuts they can be big trouble food for emotional eaters. There's no question about it. I typically don't eat nuts unless I can literally measure them and know how much I'm getting, because it's otherwise it really is a free for all. Okay, that's super cool. So let's talk about the crazy things we've done to our bodies. Many people have used laxatives and done a lot of crazy stuff trying to, basically offset their binging or the amount of food that they're taking in. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the problem with laxatives is that they can cause lazy bowel, which is where the colon can't push the food through anymore. So, I mean, literally peristalsis is the movement of food through your digestive system. All these little muscles throughout your digestive system move it through. When you use laxatives, peristalsis stops. Mm-hmm. So it literally just like things don't move through anymore. And you have to retrain the colon and through thyme and through certain other herbs like bitters, which aren't like habit-forming laxatives. And the reason we say habit-forming laxative, the colon develops the habit.
Really?
You can't. Yeah, it's the colon that has the habit to where you can't poop without it.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so essentially you need to move towards like herbal bitters and getting more fiber in, like I recommended, and getting probiotics increased. Like I would do a very therapeutic dose of probiotics to help get the bowels moving again normally. And the probiotics will actually communicate to the bowel and help with peristalsis.
Okay.
So there are ways to heal from it, but I think it's important to know, and food will move through your body faster if you're increasing your fiber anyway.
Yes.
If you're eating a normal amount of fiber, then you should be having 2 to 3 significantly sized bowel movements per day.
Right.
So I think that's really key to know. I think most people aren't eating enough fiber. And so they also are struggling because their body isn't eliminating as quickly as it should.
I'm a big champion of salads. I love my salads, and they give me that regularity that I need too. When you say make sure you're getting probiotics, what's the best way to do that? Is it through fermented foods?
Yeah, I mean, I think that fermented foods are one of the best sources for sure. I recommend fermented vegetables like kimchi and sauerkraut. You just have to make sure that they're refrigerated and they don't say pasteurized on them anywhere. Okay. If they're pasteurized, it means that they've heated it and the heat will kill off those good organisms. So look for them in the refrigerated section, read the label, and make sure there's no vinegar in it either, because vinegar will also kill off the probiotics.
Oh, really? It seems to me so often they do have vinegar. Is that like a well-known thing? They shouldn't have vinegar? Or does it just taste like vinegar because they're fermented?
It tastes like vinegar if they're fermented. So you have to read the label to make sure, is it vinegar that's in it or is it lactic acid? It won't say lactic acid. If it's naturally fermented using probiotics, then it will have that sour flavor, but it'll be lactic acid.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. That's interesting.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Interesting. So, and you don't need a lot, right? Like a spoonful on your salad?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I recommend 2 forkfuls a day is really all you need to worry about. Do it for 30 days to just let your body get used to it. And then, after you've done a 30-day session with your sauerkraut or kimchi, then you can listen to your body. And sometimes you're not going to want it. It's okay. You don't have to force yourself to eat it. As long as you're getting it in regularly, you're going to be fine. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize. It's like when we think something's good for us, we go extreme.
Right.
Like, I need a bowl of it with every meal. No, you really don't. You actually just need a little bit with each meal. Otherwise, you're going to push it too far.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about, you've got from reading my book that I talk about eating 3 meals a day with nothing in between. Give me the guts and glory version of that, or the better belly version of that.
Absolutely. So I recommend 3 meals per day as well, because there's a few things that happen to your digestive system in between. So you want to have 4 to 6 hours in between each meal. And it just depends on your own digestion. I mean, some people really do need the full 6 hours before they eat again. And you'll be able to tell based on how often you're going to the bathroom. Like if somebody's constipated, I actually recommend stop snacking and take a little bit longer in between your meals. That's when your gut hormones turn on. And these gut hormones are what stimulate peristalsis and move the food down and digest it more fully. Then you also have something called the migrating motor complex, the MMC, and this is like a brush that goes through the small intestine and brushes off all of the bacteria. It's just the way that it's the little cilia inside of the intestine, they move, and that's what allows for the organisms to get swept down, right?
Okay, yep.
So these little fingers. Yeah, now you've swept it out. And then you're going to prevent any kinds of symptoms that a lot of people talk about having SIBO or having some digestive issues shortly after they eat. This is how you eliminate that. You you don't eat very often. You don't eat in between the meals.
Yeah.
You just have 3 times a day. So those are the main reasons I recommend it. And I think it's tremendous. I've watched people, heal their constipation issues just from this one tip alone.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, and of course, 3 meals a day is going to help in so many other ways, especially with emotional eating, because the snacking is what, it gets us into trouble because we have no idea how much we're eating, and then we're never really hungry, so we don't ever know what we're feeling because the food, snacking is just going to put a blanket over our emotions where we have no idea what's going on inside, So that's, of course, the reason why I love 3 meals is because that time in between is when you get to learn about who you are and what you're feeling and what's going on, how you felt about that comment that person made or how what's really, what is in your heart, what's your heart's desire, when you're stuffed all the time, you have no idea, so
well, you're never digesting. You're not digesting anything, not even the emotional stuff.
So
I think that's
so true. Yeah. So true. I love that. So talk to us about detoxing.
Yeah. So, a lot of my clients will try to do detoxes, and I don't think it generally works.
Yeah. I don't mean that kind of detoxing, because I agree with you. Yeah.
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 What kind of detoxing?
Well, I'm just saying, I agree. The cleansing thing, we haven't talked about cleansing, but that's usually what people think of is cleanses. And I find that's a quick fix that so many people who do binge and overeat think of as a way to counterbalance their binging, basically. So I'm talking about healthier ways to really detox your body.
Yeah, wait, ask the last part of the question again.
I'm talking really about healthier ways to detox your body.
Yeah, the way that I recommend for people to detox is really to do the work of gut rebuilding, where they're doing all these steps to just be sustainable and feed their microbiome on a regular basis. I think this is foundational. And then part of that program is doing emotional detox. And I think emotional detox is essential to healing the body. That way you can heal the body at this emotional level, and then you can clear the neurotransmitters that are constantly being triggered. So, for example, this is the work that I do with emotional detox in my clients. We talk about the symptoms or the signs of the release of emotions. So the way that you know that your body is releasing emotions is that you're yawning, or you're laughing, or you're crying, shaking, sweating, and it can be like hot sweat, cold sweat, but these are all signs and symptoms that you are releasing emotions. And it's key. When you see that, you want to keep going with it.
Yes.
Allow this to come out, because while that's happening on a physiological level, you're rewiring your brain and you're rewiring trauma, and you're allowing your amygdala to heal. So once you go through this emotional work of continually letting stuff come out, get it out, move it off of your body, get it through your nervous system, you can work through things like PTSD, and you can work through things like emotional eating. Because what if you remove the reason that you're emotionally eating in the first place by healing the initial trauma?
Yeah.
I think that work is so key, because it connects to the gut as well. Think about the emotions that you have and what it does to the gut, like fear. Oftentimes fear can be associated with diarrhea. People have to go to the bathroom quickly if there's a lot of fear. Or anger is often associated with constipation. These are just like the holding, the tensing. There's actual functional issues that come up. Digestive issues that come up through having certain emotions that aren't fully resolved. Right. And ultimately the goal with emotions, right, is to integrate them. To where you're not having to figure out, well, what does it look like to be afraid? What does it look like to be angry? I remember when I had to be how do I show anger? I was just so afraid to show anger. I thought I was going to not have any more friends because I was so freaking pissed.
Yeah.
And then I finally figured out how to show anger to where I can show anger in a group of people and be angry, and I don't feel bad about it, and I don't it's not a personal hit anymore, and I'm not judging myself at all, and I'm standing in my truth, and I'm standing in my power, and in that moment I feel really alive, and I trust the people around me that they're still going to like me in a few minutes because I'm speaking my truth right now. Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes people get a little confused about this stuff, and it's the same with fear. I think fear and anger, those are the two that I would pick to be the highest on people's lists around some of these struggles. And then there's obviously grief and sadness is deep in there too. And sometimes you just got to keep letting that stuff go. But I think it's a process. It's like having, the best way to describe it would be like, having like a yard full of potholes that are all filled with water. And you really have to like drain out that water. It's like drain them and then before you can fill them back in. And the draining them part is the emotional expression.
Yeah. So I love that, Summer. I love that so much. It's so true. And one of my sayings, of course, is say it or stuff it, and it's like, unfortunately, we end up eating our emotions if we don't express our emotions. So I love that description. And you are a beautiful example of that, because you rarely don't know where you stand. As a friend, I know where you stand on things, and it's not with any judgment, it's not with any wrath. It's just like you got feelings, you got strong feelings, and you state them. And I always love that about you. So how do we go about rebuilding our gut?
Yeah, first and foremost, I'm going to say just like a few favorite tips. Stick with the sauerkraut or kimchi. Once a day, 2 forkfuls, start for 30 days. That's going to be one helpful part of the process. Again, probiotics aren't enough. So make sure you're getting fiber in. And if you're one of those people who does check how the food, like how much food you're eating, you want to calculate it to where I would say around 50 to 60 grams of fiber per day minimum. So check a MyFitnessPal app for a couple of days and see where you're at. And this is just getting more vegetables in. That's the main way I would say how. Some of the other work around gut rebuilding is around stress, and there's the emotional stress. I talked about that one, keep working. I've really had to learn.
Wait, start that. Like, you just cut out for a second. So emotional stress and...
Then the stress of everyday life. I think this is something that people need to pay attention to. I had to learn how to be more high functioning in my life. And part of that meant cleaning my house, learning how to keep my house clean. I know that's kind of dorky and simple, but I really wish that every single person listening to this lived in a spotlessly clean house. I really do, because it lowers your stress levels and makes your body function better, and your gut bacteria are going to like jump and cheer and be happy, because there isn't all this clutter everywhere, as strange as that sounds, this is a big part. You do?
I love that. I actually, yes, I need help to make my place clean. So I do get help with it, but it totally stresses me out when things are cluttered.
Because
it's really because I'm very visual, and so I want things to look nice. Like it literally calms me when I have something visually pleasing to look at. And if my surroundings isn't pleasing to me, I'm like, I'm disturbed all the time.
I totally get it. That's it. And I think that people don't put enough importance on the beauty and order of their lives. And that is part of self-love. This is part of self-care. It's part of making your body a happy place to be in. Make the environment around you the temple worthy of you living in it.
Yeah.
I think this stuff is crucial. It's key. And reducing stress in all areas. It means getting your finances in order. It means prioritizing your health. It means figuring out how to get your family to support your desires and wants and needs. These are all steps of gut rebuilding that I look at. It's not just the food. It is your relationships. It's your relationship to your entire surroundings. And figuring out how to do this stuff right is the difference between being healthy and not.
Love that. Oh, wow. Good for you. I love this message, and it is so aligned with the Heal Your Hunger message, because it's like, it's an inside job. Like, we have to heal our lives in order to heal our relationship with food. There's no question about it. And it's, it has so little to do with food. Like, food's just like the caboose on the train. It's all the trains before the caboose that we have to, figure out and get in order. So love that. Now you have a gift for people, and I want to just talk about that. And there's a special link that's going to be in the show notes of this show. But this is going to take them to a quiz, and tell us about what the quiz is going to do for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's at summerbock.com/heal hunger. And this is a quiz just for you guys. And this is how you can look at all the things that you've been exposed to in your life. And as you answer these questions, I'm going to tell you in your results, how much has it impacted your gut? And where do you need to start? What do you need to do with where you're at now so that you can have a healthier body? So it's a great quiz. It's going to help you figure out, like, some simple things that you may have heard of, like around being breastfed, but also about some of the symptoms that you have. Are these gut related or not?
Okay, so summerbock.com/heal hunger. That's where you want to go, and it will be in the show notes as well. I have one last question for you, Summer, and that is, what is your deepest hunger?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. My deepest hunger, and like the thing that gets me out of bed every day, and the thing that, like, whenever I've had a panic attack, and this is kind of weird, but when I've had some panic attacks where I've been really, really freaked out and like not well and thought I was dying, and like the thing that came to mind is just like, no, I have so much more work to do in the world. And I would say, like, my deepest hunger is to let people know that their job is to be in harmony with the environment around them, and that ultimately it's our goal. We, just like probiotics are living inside of us, we are little organisms living on this planet, and we should be doing things to make this planet a beautiful, wonderful utopia. I really think we should be taking care of it with the utmost respect and care. And I think that work starts within the gut. So that's why I do the work I do, is because ultimately I want people to heal their bodies, have a ton of energy, not be a self-absorbed, right? Step out of having to be self-absorbed, and then join this movement to do the work to heal the planet. And when I say heal the planet, I really mean heal our relationship and the way that we're interacting and interfacing with the planet, so that we're doing things that support harmony and support all the other organisms that live here and all the other animals that live here to be happy, just as happy as we are.
That's beautiful. That is so, I think that's one of the best answers I've ever heard from all the different people I've asked that question of. That's so beautiful. Summer, you are a goddess, and I appreciate you and all the work that you do in the world, and I thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. I mean, your book was super impactful for me. I've definitely come from emotional eating roots in my life, and I mean, I'm blown away. I think you've done such amazing work with it. I'm so excited. I'm glad that you're spreading this message.
Thank you. Me too. God bless you. Thanks so much, Summer.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.